Autophagy sounds like this magical little body cleansing process, and in many ways it is. But the minute that we turn it into another fasting contest, we might be missing the whole point. Autophagy is real, it is helpful, and it is one of the most beautiful repair systems that the body has. But the internet got a hold of it, slapped a fasting timer on it, and somehow turned cellular cleanup into another contest to see who can eat the least and still function in public. The problem is what we sometimes do in the name of autophagy. If you're new here, welcome to Loving Life Over 50, where we talk about science, strategy, and straight talk without the drama, dogma, or diet culture nonsense. And if this conversation helps you make sense of your body instead of fighting with it, make sure that you subscribe and stick around, because today we're going to talk about what autophagy actually is, why it became such a big wellness buzzword, and why chasing it too hard, especially in midlife, can backfire in ways that nobody talks about. Autophagy is often described as the body's cellular cleanup system, and that's a pretty good place to start. The word itself means self-eating, which sounds a little dramatic, like something from a biology horror movie, but it simply means that the body can break down old, damaged, or worn out cellular parts and recycle what it can use. Think of it like the body's housekeeping and repair crew. A deep cleaning crew that comes in and says, okay, this is broken, this is clutter, this is no longer useful, and this over here might still be repurposed. It helps the body maintain healthier cells, manage damaged proteins, support immune function, and keep things from becoming a biological junk drawer. And honestly, that part is amazing because the body already has 3 intelligent maintenance systems built in. Autophagy is one of them. Where things get messy is when we take a natural process and turn it into a finish line. Suddenly people start talking about nothing good happens in the body unless we hit a certain fasting hour. Like hour 12 is useless, hour 16 is respectable, hour 24 is saintly, and by hour 36 the cellular cleaning crew finally shows up wearing tiny uniforms and carrying little brooms. That's not how the body works. Autophagy is not a light switch. It is not completely off while we're eating and then suddenly fully on the minute a fasting app throws confetti. It's more like a dial. The body's always regulating cleanup, repair, energy use, growth, recycling based on what is going on. Food, fasting, exercise, sleep, and stress all matter. Nutrients and hormones matter too. So when someone says fasting increases autophagy, that may be true in the broad sense, but that doesn't automatically mean that fasting is always better or that eating is somehow getting in the way of health. That's the part that we need to slow down and talk about like adults who have lived in their bodies longer than 5 minutes. Because once autophagy became popular, it got pulled into the same old pattern that we see with almost every health trend. Something useful gets discovered, and then it gets simplified, and then it gets exaggerated, and then it gets turned into a rule. And before long, people are walking around afraid to eat lunch because they think that they're interrupting cellular magic. We have seen this with calories, we've seen it with carbs, we've seen it with fat, and we've seen it with protein, and now we're seeing it with fasting and autophagy. The original idea is not the issue. The issue is when the tool becomes the identity. A fasting window can be useful. Giving the body a break from constant snacking can be useful. Stabilizing blood sugar and lowering insulin between meals can be useful. Not eating from the time we wake up until the time we go to bed can absolutely be useful for some people. But when the question becomes, how long can I go without eating, instead of, is this helping my body function better, we have already drifted off course. And that drift is sneaky because it sounds so healthy. Nobody says, am I under eating, ignoring stress signals, and accidentally teaching my body that food is scarce? We say, I'm optimizing autophagy. Doesn't that sound fancier? It sounds like we should be wearing a lab coat while drinking black coffee and pretending that we're not thinking about a ribeye. But the body does not care what we call it. The body responds to the total signal. And if the total signal is nourishment, rest, recovery, movement, and enough quiet time between meals, that can be a very supportive environment. If the total signal is long fasting, low protein, poor sleep, high stress, low energy, too much caffeine, and then white knuckling our way through the day, the body may not experience that as healing. It might experience it as another stress load. That's especially important in midlife because the body is not operating in the same hormonal environment that it did at 25. Now, this doesn't mean that we're fragile. It means context matters. After 50, we need to be more intentional about preserving muscle, supporting bone, managing blood sugar, protecting sleep, and lowering unnecessary stress where we can. Muscle becomes more expensive to keep. Protein becomes more important, not less. Recovery matters more. Strength training matters more. Sleep can get more sensitive. Stress can hit harder. So when a woman over 50 hears fasting triggers autophagy and then decides that eating less often, eating less protein, and pushing through fatigue is automatically the healthier choice, that is where the wheels can come off. Because repair is not just cleanup. This is such an important point. The body does need cleanup, but it also needs rebuilding. If a house has old wiring, broken boards, and a leaky roof, yes, we need to clear out the damaged materials. But at some point, the body has to bring in supplies. We can't just keep doing demolition and call it renovation. This is where the autophagy conversation often gets wildly incomplete. People talk about breaking down the old, but they don't talk enough about what it takes to build and maintain the new. That requires nutrients. It requires protein, amino acids, enough energy. It requires sleep. It requires the body feeling safe enough to repair instead of just survive. This is why I get concerned when autophagy becomes a reason to undereat protein. Because one of the big messages floating around is that protein can reduce autophagy because it stimulates growth pathways like mTOR. And that is where people can get very nervous very quickly. mTOR is not a villain. It's not the bad guy in the black cape trying to ruin our health because we ate chicken. It's involved in growth and building, and we need building. We don't want growth signals running full blast all day, every day while we graze from morning until night, but we also don't want it to live in a constant breakdown state and call it longevity. The body needs rhythm. There are times for cleanup, for building, there are times for fasting and for eating. There are times for training and time for resting. That rhythm is where health tends to live. It's not all cleanup all the time. Aging well is not about seeing how little we can ask the body to work with. It's about giving the body the right signals at the right times. And after 50, one of the most important signals that we can give the body is enough high-quality protein to support muscle, strength, immune function, repair, and stable appetite. Muscle is metabolic tissue. It helps with glucose disposal. It supports mobility. It protects independence. It changes how the body handles energy, and it gives us more reserve. So if someone is fasting longer and longer in pursuit of autophagy, but they're missing protein, losing muscle, sleeping worse, and feeling colder than a grocery store rotisserie chicken under the wrong heat lamp, we have to ask a better question. Is this really improving health, or is it just checking a wellness box? That doesn't mean that fasting is bad. Fasting can be a very useful tool. I use fasting strategically. Many people feel better when they're not grazing all day. A simple overnight fast can be wonderful. Closing the kitchen after dinner can be one of the most underrated health habits on the planet. But fasting is not automatically better because it's longer. That is the trap. We like clear rules because they feel safe. 16 hours sounds better than 12. 20 hours sounds more disciplined than 16. One meal a day sounds even more impressive. And then suddenly the goal becomes the number instead of the outcome. But a shorter fasting window that supports sleep, keeps protein high, lowers snacking, and helps someone feel calm and steady may be far more useful than an extreme fast that leads to poor sleep, rebound eating, cravings, and a nervous system that feels like it's running from a bear while answering emails. That's why I like to start with the boring stuff, the unsexy stuff, and the stuff that nobody can sell in a shiny bottle. Can we stop eating late at night? Can we create a 12-hour overnight break from most days? Can we eat enough protein at real meals? Can we stop grazing all day just because the kitchen is nearby? Can we walk in, lift something heavier than a coffee mug, and get outside in daylight? Can we protect sleep instead of treating it like the leftover chore at the end of the day? Those habits may not sound as dramatic as a 36-hour fast, but they create a very different internal environment than constantly snacking, poor sleep, high stress, and sporadic undereating followed by eating pantry archaeology. And yes, I said pantry archaeology because we've all been there, standing in the kitchen at 9:30 at night looking for something oddly specific that apparently does not exist. Autophagy is not just influenced by fasting. Exercise also plays a role, especially exercise that challenges the body in a new, healthy way. Strength training sends a powerful signal. It tells the body, this tissue matters. Keep it, build it, use it. Walking helps with blood sugar and insulin sensitivity. Movement helps the body handle energy better. Sleep supports repair. Lowering constant eating gives the body some space between incoming fuel. None of that requires turning the day into a punishment project. And this is where I think that the conversation needs to become more human. Because many people attracted to autophagy are not just there looking for science, they're looking for hope. They want to feel like their body can heal. They want to feel like aging is not just decline. They want to believe that the body has a repair system still available to them. And that part is beautiful. But sometimes that hope gets tangled with fear. Fear of eating too often, fear of eating protein, fear of missing the best fasting window, fear that if we do not do it perfectly, then we're losing our chance for repair. And that's not health. That's just pressure dressed in wellness clothes. And I want us to be able to talk about autophagy without turning into another rule book. Because we do this, don't we? We learn something new, and instead of asking, how can this support my life, we ask, how can I do this perfectly? Then the thing that was supposed to help us starts ruining the room. Protein becomes a math test. Fasting becomes a virtue test. The scale becomes a mood ring. And before long, we're not listening to the body anymore. We're negotiating with apps, charts, strangers on the internet, and that one comment section where everyone seems both extremely confident and slightly dehydrated. The better approach is to ask what the body is telling us. If fasting is supporting you, there's often signs. Hunger becomes more manageable, food noise calms down, energy feels steady, digestion may improve, blood sugar may look better, meals feel more intentional. You're not thinking about food all day. You're not finishing a fast like a raccoon released into a bakery. But if fasting is going too far, the signals can look very different. Sleep gets worse, cravings get louder, energy dips, workouts suffer, you feel colder, you get irritable, you start needing more caffeine to survive the fasting window. You dread eating because you're afraid that it will ruin your progress, or you finally eat and feel like you can't stop. That is useful information. It's not failure, it's just information. The body's always giving feedback. The problem is that the diet culture trained us to treat feedback like weakness. Hungry, ignore it. Tired, push through. Craving, more willpower. Stalled, eat less. And now sometimes the autophagy world adds fast longer. But what if the better answer is better rhythm? That is the word that I would come back to over and over again with autophagy. Rhythm, not extremes, rhythm. A meal rhythm, a fasting rhythm, a sleep rhythm, a movement rhythm, a stress recovery rhythm. Because the body is rhythmic by nature. Hormones are rhythmic, digestion, sleep, energy, even repair has a rhythm. When we fight that, the body often pushes back. When we support that, things can start feeling calmer. For many people, especially after 50, a beautiful place to start is not with extreme fasting. It's with a cleaner daily rhythm. Eating satisfied meals built around protein. Adding enough fat for satiety and energy. Keeping carbs appropriate for your goals and your body. Stop snacking just because the clock, emotions, or habits say so. Finish dinner early enough that the body is not digesting a heavy meal while trying to sleep. Give yourself a true overnight break from food. Then wake up and pay attention. How is energy, hunger, sleep? How are cravings and mood? How is strength and food noise? That tells us far more than a fasting badge. I know it sounds less exciting than chasing some perfect autophagy window, but boring done consistently is often where the magic hides. So when we talk about autophagy, talk about it as a part of a bigger system. If someone is well nourished, sleeping well, strength training, metabolically stable, and using fasting in a way that feels calm and supportive, wonderful. If somebody is already exhausted, under eating, waking up at 3 a.m., losing muscle, and using fasting as another way to control the body harder, that is a different conversation. Same tool, different context. And context changes everything. This is also why I do not love the idea of using autophagy as a weight loss hack. Autophagy is about cellular maintenance and recycling. Weight loss is about energy balance, hormones, appetite regulation, metabolic health, muscle, consistency, and the actual life that we're living. Those things can overlap, but they're not the same thing. When people chase autophagy for weight loss, they often end up using fasting as a way to force a bigger calorie deficit. And yes, that can make the scale move at first. But if the cost is lower protein, poorer sleep, muscle loss, binge restricted cycles, and feeling obsessed with food, that's not a great trade. The goal is not a smaller body. The goal is a healthier body. Weight loss may still matter. Of course it can. But if we pursue it in a way that costs us muscle, sleep, mood, and metabolic health, then we might get a smaller number and a more fragile body. If there's one thing that I want to pull out of this entire conversation, it is this. Autophagy is not something that we have to chase with fear. It's something that we can support with rhythm. And that's why I will always come back to sustainable strategies over extremes. So yes, autophagy is real. It is helpful. It is worth understanding. But we don't need to turn it into another way to mistrust food, fear protein, or push the body harder when it's asking for support. If this conversation hit home, the next video I would watch is the discipline trap, when willpower fails for weight loss, and what works instead. Because this is exactly where so many of us get stuck. The answer is learning how to work with the body's signals instead of trying to out-discipline them. And as always, be good to yourself, be good to others, and keep loving life over 50.